Coming down to the
Does he have it?
Lewis is going to get it.
Haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's gonna do it! Big Barry!
Season's getting towards its climax here in the VWSC NRAS Championship here on JPV Broadcasting for what should be a thrilling race at the Virginia International Race, where we're getting towards, as I said, those latter parts of the season. Not too many rounds left to run, and the championships are really going to be decided over the next few weeks. My name is Dareth Acker, joined by James Parfitt, making the broadcast, making it all look absolutely wonderful. And James, it should be a good race. We've had so many good races this season, but VIR, it's a very, very particular track, very tight in parts. This could be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. I think these guys are going to have a real test on their hand. I think that's the thing. Going to be really tested on the race circuit. Well, you know, through the NASCAR bends, through the left hooks, through down through the snakes. It's going to be really complicated. Roller coaster as well. And just to top it all off, we're going to chuck multi-class at them. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we've had quite a few close calls, haven't we, this season? I think you birthed a litter of cats at Laguna Seca.
I did.
And Belle Isle was much fun. So it's going to be an interesting one. But let's have a look at the track before we get going here at VIR. Very, very particular. So, I mean, you can just see the first half of the lap, the orange zone where penalties are going to be more harshly applied. It is tight, it's twisty. It's going to be dangerous with these multi-class cars, surely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're going to have a problem. It's not much room. And with the amount of GTs we've got, out of the 37 car field, we've only got 12 hypercars. So it tells you there that alone we're going to have 25 GT circuit. It's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very hard. And I'm sure I'll probably birth a litter of cats by the time this finishes.
Yeah, I think looking down at 4, 5, and 6 is really where it's going to get really tricky, but also down in towards to the end of the track at South Bend, it's going to be very tight through there. But that is the track map. Let's have a quick look at the calendar overall. As I said, 2 more rounds to go after this. We really are getting to crunch point. 26th of September, 17th of October, the last 2 rounds at Indianapolis and Road Atlanta. So again, quite open circuits, contrary to this, but particularly to this circuit, the strategy for the cars is going to be pretty much relatively the same as it generally is for the hypercars. You're looking at 2 to 3 stops, so you know you might be pushing it to make 2, but it seems relatively comfortable enough, and a relatively nice mix of the cars as well with the mediums and hards. And over for the GT3s, we've got a different picture. It's only 1 stop you'll really be needing on the fuel to get you all the way to the end, and another a nice selection of GT3s that you're going to be able to run in this one. In the keys to the race, though, there's lots of challenges at this circuit. Building a stable setup is going to be very, very important, and hold on to the tyres because lots of long corners here at VIR and high speeds as well. So the tyres are going to be screaming towards the end of the stint. And we talked about the class wars, didn't we, James? So going to be very, very tricky indeed to see how it all pans out over the course of the 1 hour's worth of racing we are going to get. But we're also going to develop these standings. 3 more columns left to fill in the hypercar standings. That's all of the others, with Alec King leading the way ahead of Brian Hall in P2, who's relatively comfortable ahead of Mike Bell and Franco Alvarez, nearly tied for 3rd. Ben Kesby, Adrian Rice, Daniel Kirby, Kyle Vaser, Troy Uyan and John Uyan. Top 10 drivers in the field for the Hypercar Pros. And the Hypercar Rams, it's Jerry Chen who leads the way. Such consistency. You can see that there, how good he's been over the last few weeks and months, really, to lead by 41 points ahead of Scar Pope, who is just ahead of Wayne Galvin. They've got a bigger gap back to Gilles Lalonde, who's been turning up consistently, hence the P4 with Norm Graf, George Angelides and Lanny Hall in P7. Carl Struhl, Jerry Hamilton, Diego Rodriguez in the top 10 with Philippe Descartes, Guillaume Benke and Jason White at the top 13 in the order. In the LMGT3, lots of drivers. Beninka leads comfortably ahead of JT Tammy and Eugene Mazur. Michael Locke, Johnny Gutierrez, Matthias Santos, Matthew Overton, James Walker, Max Sunthornlap, and it's Chris Dudham running at the top 10. Don Fryman, Ross Smith, and Eric Jacobs in the top 13. Alicia Neto, this is Goncalves, Mayer, Ibbotson, Anderson, Dave, Fast and Shilting are the other drivers in the pros. And the AMS, a few less drivers, but still a close championship battle. Alan Holden leads the way by only 7 points ahead of Stephen Miller. James Bode's in here as well with Ryan Ray, Sean Kelly and Cole McMillan top 6. Alexander McQuarrie, William Shilting again on this standings. Josh McGlinsky and Micah Dern in the top 10 with Tom Lasella, Oliver Day and Carl Struhl the top 13. Then we look over. Do we have team standings, James? We're free. We're free from the standings. Oh, we're not for. I was waiting for these. I didn't know where they were. Here they are, the team standings. And Flying Kiwi Racing, Chen and King, they are leading the way relatively comfortably. I say relatively, they are smashing the competition. The Hall brothers are second, with Lanny and Brian, with the Champion Motorsports GT3s in third, Barely Functional Motorsports in fourth, with Red Weasel, Faux Real Sim Racing, and Shade Tree Motorsports, the other teams in the order. And Ross Smith down there in seventh, will be looking for a little bit more, I think. But we'll have to see how he does this evening. But I think we are now, James, finally free of the standings.
By the one and only Mr. Ross Smith in the booth with us. Ross, welcome in, buddy. How are you?
Great, thank you. How's everyone doing here?
We're very, very well. Thank you very much. If you don't mind just moving your mic just a little bit away from your mouth so we can hear you, that'd be amazing. Thank you very much. How's it been? How's VIR treating you?
Well, not too terribly well, but that's mostly on me. Just I haven't had a chance really to come here. It's been quite a long time since I've run this track, especially in a car similar to a GT3 or anything like at this pace, but it's still a ton of fun. I'm trying to get some points here just for the team. My teammate Josh McGlinski's here, so see if we can't try and boost ourselves up. And I'll be going for the hard charger, hopefully, so we'll see what attrition does for me.
Awesome stuff. And give us a rundown on the mods, where we at really quickly.
No major changes for what we have currently running, other than just some things going on in the background. Most concentration is on getting things ready for 2025, both modern and historic. So not a lot of change there, although I can tell you that with the GT3 mules getting wrapped up here over the next couple weeks, be able to shift focus back to getting some graphical updates for the current cars, so that way we can finally get the first mod, the WSC 2023, into the workshop, and then we can start focusing on some of the historic content and some of the other cars that are going to be going into next year's pack as well.
Awesome stuff. We're looking forward to that one. And we're joined by Matt Overton. Matt, welcome in, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, man. Doing good, doing good. Just getting used to heavy car again and doing a quick run through the pit to see what that's like.
Yeah, Matt, you were a naughty boy, weren't you, at Road America? Got yourself a drive-through.
I was. I'm looking to reclaim myself here.
Yeah, drive-through right at the beginning there as well. We've got a couple of other penalties. Stephen Miller's no qualification. Sean Kelly, no qualification either as well. A couple of people been a little bit naughty there. Matt, what were we expecting for today's race?
I think a lot of chaos. There's going to be a lot of people elbowing around for the few laps. Certainly in the GT3s, they're going to be quite competitive. But I think it's going to settle out. I've read the riot act, everybody.
So we're expecting it to be cleaner?
Well, I would like to think so. I think people are going to be on their best behavior, but this is a really difficult track. There's some places where you can get caught out very quickly. And but yeah, everyone's told, mind your P's and Q's.
Oh, okay, well, this could be an interesting one, Dara, I think, here at VIR. Very tough for pretty much most people on the circuit. Ross, what's the chances? Where are you going to end up, do you reckon?
Well, hopefully not last, but probably well down the order. I mean, I think what you guys are going to be watching is most of those guys who set those fast pace laps up at the top of the grids, both in GT3 and in Hypercar. It's going to be a real good fight. Seeing Daniel Kirby out of Hypercar and into the GT3 is kind of sad for that battle at the front. Would love to see Mike Bell and Alec King get some good competition from him there. Not to say any of those other folks around them are slouches, but obviously, you know, you get a good mix of talent up at the front. It can really make things fun and interesting, especially on an IMSA setting. And man, this track is perfect for that. It's just so undulating, so fast. It's classic American circuit, you know, just a real driver's track. So it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it is. Daniel's doing some great work in trying out all the cars, but it does take away a little bit from the competition. It is disappointing, but he's been pretty clear about that, and it's fun watching him just drive the wheels off cars no matter what he drives.
I would probably suggest, though, Ross, if you can just enter the pit lane a lot better than you just did. All right.
I was about to say.
You know what I mean?
I was just saying hi to my teammate, that's all.
Go and hit somebody in the pit lane. Matt, where are you going to finish up, do you reckon? You have got that drive through at the beginning.
I'm going to be just ahead of Ross.
So,
and not in the back.
Wow.
So second from
Gauntlet
Ross.
thrown down.
Yes. So you'll be last, Ross, and Matt will be just in front of you.
Yeah, Yeah, I'll be fighting him for the bottom.
Oh man, no worries. Well guys, thank you so much for joining us, and jump yourself up into the driver's room while we get ready and get through the rest of the warm-up. It's been a pleasure as always, and I will catch up with you soon, no doubt.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Man, take care. I reckon, Dara, that we're going to see complete and utter chaos.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. I think considering some of the tracks we've had chaos at so far this season, thinking of Laguna Seca particularly, this track has all the same characteristics, isn't it? So this could be an absolute free-for-all, quite frankly. I also hope they've engraved the wooden spoon that they gave out to either Ross or to Matthew at the end of the race with a little mark to notify them of coming second last in the race. I hope they do that. I'm sure they won't, but there you go. Ross is going out onto the track again. Let's hope he doesn't hit anybody else this time, because I don't really want to be having too many issues. This is only a warm-up session. He's going to get a good feel for the car, don't he?
Yeah, you want to just kind of make sure you know what you're doing in it. Clearly, pit entry, bit of an issue for us. So hopefully he'll get himself sorted out. But it's going to be very difficult. This is a turn 4 where they're going to go round the left turn, and then they've got 5 and 5A. Now, in agreement, we spoke about the number of American circuits. Both of us just kind of given up and gone, yep, okay. Up through the snake. This is going to be the far section where I would expect Hypercars to try overtake on certain parts of this section now. I don't think they can get it up through these S's. They might be able to get it on the run out of this corner here, which is South Bend, and then into Oak Tree, which of course has no longer got the Oak Tree on it. And then from Oak Tree right the way down into Roller Coaster. I think that's going to be their main situation.
Yeah, down into tunnel as well, so I think they're going to have to be astute with this. But you've also got to remember that there is quite a long bit of track, really, from turn 1 all the way through South Bend, where it's going to be very, very difficult to find a way through. And the Hypercars, they aren't going to be waiting around for too long. They're going to be getting a little bit impatient if they've been stuck behind from turn 1, and they're trying to look for the line, but they just can't find it. It is going to start to become a little bit nervy for them, and they are very much going to be looking for the move quickly. Is just looking at Ross Smith, looks like he's about to be overtaken as well. That doesn't bear well, or bode well, I should say, for him in this race. Oh, but actually, behind him, that was not the right line to be taking through there, and still off the road. This isn't like, actually, it's a good point to note, actually, like, demonstrate it perfectly. There really isn't any runoff anywhere here. If you make a little mistake and you go a little bit wide, the grass is going to eat you up.
That's the thing, I think. And then, of course, you're going to slide like an absolute trooper trying to get the thing back into the track as well. And I've got mixed feelings about VIR. I'm not a lover. I'm not a hater. For me, it's just a meh. It's. I'd prefer the short course. I don't like the long courses. The long courses for me are too long. If you go to VIR full, there's another 2 miles or something ridiculous on top of that one. It makes it exceedingly long. But, you know, look, these guys seem to be okay with it, and hopefully they will get through it and enjoy themselves with it. We can hopefully bring you up the results for the session and bring you up the grid. And if I'm not mistaken, it should be Alec King on the front row.
It will be Alec King on the front row. It's not Alec King on the front row. Adrian Rice is on the front row with Mike Bell, but Alec King will be a little bit further down. Norm Graff third, Eugene Missouri in fourth. I think this might be ever so slightly. Is this correct? Is there only 3 Hypercars at the front?
No, this is a little bit gone a little bit awry. I wonder if it's going to do it now.
Read it.
There you
I
go.
can read it. There we go. There we go. That makes more sense. Alec King then leads us to green. Mike Bell in P2 on the front row. Scar Pope and Adrian Rice are on row 2 as they follow in behind from our leaders. Then on the third row, we've got Troy Uyan and Jerry Chen. Of course, Jerry Chen doing very well on the Hypercar category. Let's see if he can extend that lead tonight. Ben Kesby, Don Hunter are on row 4 overall. We then look further back to row 5 and 6. Brian Hall and Jason White to go just inside the top 10 with Lanny Hall and Norm Graff 11th and 12th. And that should be pretty much all of our Hypercars, because we're going to start to get a bit of a flux of GT3s led by Eduardo Beninca, who starts P13. Dan Kirby will start 14th with William Schilting and Max Sunderlap in 15th and 16th. They're on row 8, but 3rd and 4th in class, obviously. Johnny Gutierrez and JT Tamby, 17th and 18th, with Michael Locke and Matt Overton in 19th and 20th. Matt Overton, he's starting P8 in class. Who's to say he's going to finish at the back, but he starts just about midway through the pack. Ryan Paulbert Reyes is 21st ahead of Alexander McQuarrie, who's on row 11 alongside him. Vinicius Goncalves and Alan Holden, row 12, as they continue to all roll through. It's Eugene Mazur and Eric Jacobs, 25th and 26th, with Cole McMillan and Paul Ibbison on row 14. I think it was Paul Ibbison that we saw go wide at the final corner just a minute ago as well. Rolling on though, even more drivers, more for Carl Struhl in P29 and Josh Maglinski in P30. Then we've got Sandfire in 31st and Stephen Miller in 32nd, and they're rolling with James Walker and Ross Smith 33rd and 34th, James Boders and David Anderson 35th and 36th. And to prop up the field, I do believe we have just Sean Kelly, P37 off the grid, off the line I should say. Where's he going to get to over the course of this race? We're nearly halfway through this outlap. But I was going to mention, you were talking about the infield, James. Could you imagine they did this multi-class racing on the infield?
I'm hard enough to imagining this on with multi-class, to be honest. I'm dreadfully worried about this because there's not a lot of room here. And unless these hypercars are going to be very patient to get onto this back stretch here, from the oak tree right the way down into the roller coaster, I think there's going to be quite a lot of dramatic drama. And I'm a little bit scared for some of these people.
Yeah, I don't really know how many are going to go scot-free in this race. I don't feel like it's going to be very many.
No, I agree.
Especially when you remember that there's, 6 rows worth of hypercars and then another 12 rows worth of GT3s. I mean, there are just cars all over this circuit, and it is not the longest circuit in the world either, when you consider some of the slower speeds that you get in the opening sector. Alec King, though, he'll just be hoping to get away at the front. He's done this time and time again, hasn't he, this season, and just hoping to leave Bell for dead, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's just going to want to get away. We'll try and have a jump on board when he starts going through traffic, and we know how interesting that can be sometimes here as well. But I think overall, it's, yeah, there's definitely got to be patience in this one. There's going to be a little bit of a mission, and I think, yeah, these guys are going to need to learn it, because otherwise, Darren, me and you, well, I'm having kittens, you're having puppies.
We'll see how many we birth. Hopefully for Alec King, he'll go scot-free though, as the 1 hour is on the clock. We're about to go green here in VIR for one of the final rounds of the season. The time is ticking down for drivers to make their moves in the championship, and Alec King is going to lead us to green just about now, leaving it to the last second actually to make that move. And actually he might get jumped off of the line here as they run down towards the opening corner. Massive gap back between P3 and P4 as they run through turn 1, but Alec King, he's gone off wide. He's off of the track, and this is not the kind of stuff we see from Alec King very often. He never makes mistakes. The gap that was between P3 and P4 means that he's going to emerge only in P4 here, maybe from P3.
Yeah, the start of the GT3s here as well. Eduardo Bonica with Dan Kirby tucked up right behind him. Of course, Eduardo leading the championship. They've all got away a little bit more cleanly. Alec King's off track is the first notification that we've had of anyone having issues. But yeah, I'm be interested to know now what Alec's got to do here. He's got to try and fight his way back through. Still somehow in third, mind you, even though he took a trip off the side of the circuit.
Yeah, that massive gap off of the line between third and fourth really does show, because he's emerged, he was fighting over P3 with the driver just behind him, who is Adrian Rice, but he managed to just about hold it in front and stay in P3, and now he's going to chase after Scar Pope, who's leading the AM category in this race, and then of course Mike Bell, he's lost 5 seconds already, and Alec King has got a lot of work to be doing, but the biggest gap in the field actually is between Mike Bell and Scar Pope, with anybody, with the exception of the class difference. So massive lead from Mike Bell, but he was gifted that off turn. Well, I really don't know what happened there to Alec King. A really weird position for him to be in, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was a little bit bizarre. He seemed to be on the outside or the inside, and then just locked up and got it all completely wrong. So we'll have a look back at that very shortly. There's Ben Kesby currently at the moment, and he's battling away nicely here, but it's going to be very tough for these hypercars. It's Ben Kesby and Adrian Rice currently as they are, and Kesby trying to go up the inside of Horseshoe Turn 1 before they start going round left, round NASCAR, of course. For Alec King, we can have a look back now. and see what he got himself into. Well, he just kind of missed it, I think.
Well, because he started very late, didn't he? I mean, the only reason that we had a side-by-side action between Bell and King up towards turn 1 was because Alec King had left it incredibly late to actually drop the hammer. And then he found himself side-by-side and locked up on the inside, so I do not know what went on then. Oh my word, though, that is the move for P2. Scar Pope was being shoved out of the way by Alec King, who was coming through, clearly not the happiest man, but despite going off the track, losing 5-6 seconds, he's already back up into P2 after a lap and a half, which is incredible, to be fair.
Yeah, he's done a great job, to be honest with you, and it's come back. We accept it that we know he's no slouch here. At the moment, watch Ben Kersby just battling side by side with Adrian Rice, and he's just got that job done. And Adrian Rice does drop in behind him here. Let's jump down into the GT3s. We have Eduardo Benica and Dan Kirby. Now this is going to be an interesting one. Benica's leading the championship. Kirby's car hopping. I wonder how this is going to go down here. Is Benica going to let him go, do we think, or is he going to give Kirby a good old battle?
I think he's going to give Kirby a battle, though I can't see Benica relinquishing the lead, especially considering that these two are, you'd say, are the class in the field. So Benica, if he can control this pace a little bit off of the start, he might be able to then benefit, considering that he'll be the last driver that all of the hypercars work their way through. So he's not having to worry about the driver in front of him being in the GT3. He's just having to worry about where to let the hypercars pass, and that might work to his benefit. But Dan Kirby, we know he's a force of nature, isn't he, quite frankly? He is a driver that you don't want to be seeing in your wing mirrors, but if you're Eduardo Benica, you're probably the most confident of all the drivers on the track to keep him behind you, because these two, you'd probably say, class of the field based off the pace and dominance they've shown so far this season. But they are being tracked, aren't they? They're not being allowed to get away too far, because William Schilting has really come on this season, is really doing well to stick it in for P3.
Yeah, he's holding his own, is William at the moment. He's got Max on for lap, Johnny Gutierrez and JT Tammy. Tammy's got Michael Locke and Matt Overton. So Matt not quite at the back of the field as of yet. Neither is Mr. Smith completely. It looks like Sanfra has just gone off the side of the circuit there. He's dropped down to the back, and there he is recovering through once more. I wonder how we're doing here with Mike Bell. It's going to be a couple of laps, but I don't think, oh gee whiz, I hope he's not driving in that position. You cannot see absolutely anything.
And it's me when I get in my car after my dad's driven it, quite frankly. The seat's too low, I'm too short, I can't see over the steering wheel. So yeah, hopefully there's a little bit of a booster seat that we can put in that car, because otherwise he's driving on absolutely nothing to try and go around this circuit. And you need to really have your wits about you around here, like I was mentioning before. Very, very tight circuit, no margin for error. You can just see how thin these curves are, and then you've just got grass, which, especially at a corner like this, if you go a little bit wide through this right-hander, you were going to get dragged over that curve, spat out over here. It nearly happened to Mike Bell. Lucky to get through under the Pirelli bridge and up towards now the S's. So it looks relatively calm, under control for Mike Bell at the moment. But he's not going to be allowed to get away, because Alec King is arriving on the scene. 3.5 tenths was taken out on that last lap alone. Yeah,
King's no slouch, is he? Let's be real about it. You know, he's going to be after him. I just want to see what sort of speeds they're topping north of as they're coming down from the Oak Tree down into the roller coaster. On the bottom right-hand corner, you can see it's going up 270. Is it going to hit 280? Is it going to go 290? It is. Is it going to go 300 kph? It is. How far? 307. 307 kph here, so a great job from Mike Bell. The car's clearly got pace, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it goes on for the rest of the race.
Yeah, they are really pulling away, aren't they, from Ben Kesby and the rest? So, and Scar Pope as well, for that matter. The gap between Alec King and Scar Pope, despite that move only happening about 3-4 minutes ago, is 6 seconds. It has been absolutely, dominated, the little battle by Alec King. Last lap around, Alec King took 2 seconds out of Scar Pope, so really, really asserting his dominance at the moment. And again, last time around, he was another full second quicker of Mike Bell. That gap now well under 3 seconds and closing as Mike Bell. That is one hell of a slide, and that is not going to help him with his battle with Alec King.
No, that ain't it. No, he is rough at the moment. He is on edge driving that car. Just anybody who can't convert kph to mph, you're looking at about 191 miles an hour. They've just racked up through that straight. Please don't do anything silly. Don't. there's somebody else off the side of the circuit as well. I think that might be David Anderson in the GT3s going off. The GT3s having a right little bit of a ding-dong. Kirby and obviously Eduardo Bonica still fighting out in front. They've opened up 3 seconds over the guys behind. Battle in the GT3 AMS. Alexander McQuarrie with Ryan Paulbert Reyes is about just over a second behind him currently. But there is a lot of people quite close together on the circuit at the moment, and we'll keep an eye out and see who we can find to have a look at very, very shortly.
Yeah, and Alec King, no less, right behind Mike Bell now, only about 1/10 of a second in it as they presumably run down towards the opening few corners. They got really, really close on the exit down at Oak Tree after the bit of a mistake that Bell made all the way through that opening second. You can see here Alec King looking to move on the inside. He's locked up here once before, but not making the same mistake twice. But this is really where we're going to get to see how difficult it is for these drivers to pick their way through this GT3 traffic. Does Alec King go to the inside here? Yeah, he can, just about. But it doesn't look comfortable. And you can see Mike Bell sliding as well, and Alec King as well. This is just not looking like an enjoyable race for these drivers by any stretch of the imagination. And to get stuck behind these GT3s in the worst points of the racetrack is not going to be nice if you're Mike Bell.
Oh, don't do it! Oh my! I thought we were going 3 wide. I honestly thought at that shortest point of the race circuit we were going to go 3 wide. I believe that was what Ross Smith we're up to at this moment in time. So we've got James Walker and everybody else who are obviously battling it out in the GT3s coming up very, very shortly, and they're all up there. So we'll stay on board here with Alec King. I'm going to go with Alec King because I think if I jump the cockpit with Mike Bell, we're not going to see a lot. So we might see a little bit more with Alec here as they're going to be starting slicing through these GT3s, probably into the roller coaster, which is not going to be fun for either of these guys.
No, they've got 18. Oh, as Bell rear and sliding around, they've got 18 GT3s to lap still, even though we've had all of that overtaking happening on the last couple of laps. Here's Alec King just trying to get a bit of a move done here. They're going to have to try and go either side or just the same side of this GT3 as they work their way past the man who's currently in 30th, in 29th, and they're on their way towards turn 1, which looks relatively empty, sparse. A couple of drivers up in front, but look at Alec King inside line, real send. Just about going to not cause any contact there, but Mike Bell was dropping across the front as if he didn't know that Alec King was there.
It was late. I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
Mike wouldn't have been able to have time to react. He was so late with the move that even if the spotter had managed to get words out quick enough, I'm not quite sure what they would have sounded like, apart from a bunch of waffles, to be plainly honest with you, because he was so late with that move. And I think now Mike is sitting there on tenterhooks thinking, what is going to happen if I don't get past this GT? Because Alec clearly isn't messing around here. You know, he's sitting there fighting him away. He's going to use that GT to block Mike Bell in, which is what he did do. And now Alec King back into first place. As the GT off the side of the circuit, I believe that might be Jerry Chen. We'll have a look and see what happened to him. But yeah, Mike just got blocked in then. And I think Alec used the traffic well and kind of blocked Mike in and said, well, if you're not going to go, I am.
Yeah, and it's taken him about 11 minutes longer than he would have wanted to. He's back into the lead, but look at this. Bell's coming back at him as they make that. Oh my word, no. Either side on this big contact, and around goes Bell. Oh, that's going to end his effectiveness in this race. Surely we don't know where he is on the circuit. He could be anywhere. And there he is. As he kept it down to the barriers, he may have done. And he's still probably going to emerge in second with the gap that they built up to John Uyan. But my word, there was that massive contact. But I don't really know where Bell was going there, because to go 3 wide and then to go onto the grass to overtake the GT3 car, I think it was Paul Ibbotson as well. I mean, that was just pure madness, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see they split him like a walnut and then tried to come back on. Oh. And there was just no room at the end. No room whatsoever. And he did hit the wall. That was Mike Bell's. This is Jerry Chen. Was this a hypercar? Oh, no, he was punted from 376 and then spun around again and again. Hit a couple of times there for poor old Jerry. This is Vinicius Goncalves. He's gone off. He was the one in the wall on the right-hand side. Yep. Ouch for Vinicius there. That would have hurt and not good. Adrian Rice, whatever happened to him, has ended his race. So Adrian there. He was, yeah, I think that was with Jason Whitehead, if I'm not mistaken. Jason hit the brakes, and Adrian comes in and sends him around, and then he goes and hits somebody else. So, yeah.
It's incredible that most of this, though, is just between drivers in the same class.
Well, obviously, apart from Alec King and Mike Bell, then yeah, you know, you can safely say it has been. But I think with the fact that, you know, Matt even said we were expecting chaos, I didn't really think we actually would get it, but it seems like we are getting a lot of chaos here as well. We've lost 2 DNFs already, Adrian Rice and Vinicius Concalves. They're out. Kim D, welcome to YouTube chat as well. So I have seen your message. I was just looking for the time to say hello. And overall, I think if we can stay above 30 drivers finishing the race, Dara, I think we're on for a winner.
Yeah, I think that'd be a big success, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not too sure about that. Jason Whited is now out of the race, so that's now us down to 34. And we're only about a quarter of the way through the race as well. So I think there's definitely room for some of these drivers to drop out as we go through,
and
especially as time wears on. Yeah, Kesby, what's happened to Ben Kesby? He's in the pit lane. Has he retired from the race? Doesn't look like it. Oh no, he has. He has retired from the race. It's reading as a DNF on the time he paid. So that's 33 then, James.
Yeah, I'm not. That's just a straight disconnect.
Well, the internet is our best friend and it's our biggest enemy, isn't it, really?
Oh, it's a nightmare, dude. Absolutely a nightmare. I think sim racing, broadcasting, the internet, the electric is just horrible. Computers, we're relying on so much trying to bring people to these races, and you know, as Ben Kesby found out, when it don't work, it don't work, and it literally just seems to be a straight disconnect. We've got Bowders, Whitehead and Overton in the pits. I can show Matt's probably not going to be too happy about this one, but let's have a look back and see what happened to Matt. In that Aston Martin. Oh, he bounced the grass already. It's the grass again. It's more of the grass. It's a lot more of the grass. And unfortunately, goes off the side of the circuit. But I don't know if that is actually related to something else here, because although he does seem to have it remotely under control there, Darryl, so maybe he's, yeah, he has got some damage from somewhere.
Maybe it didn't look like it was the biggest of spins either, and he kept it out of the wall. It's Alec King, oh my word, heading through. Some lights flashing, not too sure whether that was
Benica on the brake.
Yeah, not too sure which way it was, but Alec King, that is now him through all of the GT3s. So for the next couple of laps, you'd say he probably has a bit of breathing room because before he comes back up to the likes of David Anderson, Sean Kelly, and Escafil Sandfreight. But this is his chance to really pull that gap, because the gap behind, look at the gap behind though, the gap to Bell, 18 seconds.
Something happened to Dan Kirby here. Oh, he just got it all wrong.
It off the road. Yeah.
A mistake. Gee whiz, Batman, you don't see that every day.
Seeing mistakes from drivers we don't usually see mistakes from today, aren't we? It's a bit, feeling a little bit weird. Alec King, Daniel Kirby, these guys are the consistent ones. Why we're seeing them have a couple of falters. Here we go, the battle side by side, not really in class, just a lapped car of Johnny Gutierrez being overtaken by Mike Bell. It's 20 seconds, 20 off the back of Alec King. And mind you, after one lap, Mike Bell had a 6-7 second advantage over Alec King. So that is a near 30-second shift in the last 15 minutes. An incredible gain from Alec King.
Yeah, he's doing an absolute stellar job. Got caught tonight, got caught out by the concertina, says Music Racer. I'm not sure who Music Racer is, but let us know who you are in the race, and we can, well, just tell us basically, so we know who we're talking to. But I think once we get these first few laps, get down to sort of 25 minutes remaining, and then we might see some, I don't like this. I don't like this circuit for multi-class.
It's just not comfortable viewing, is it? It's late at night here in the UK, and you don't really want to be feeling nervous, but here we are. Oh, I also love how the cars are clearly getting a bit of airtime over that corner. Even if we're not feeling it in the car, we're seeing it on the broadcast, and it looks, frankly, ridiculous. But they're managing to hold it. In the end, everyone's through happily, but you can see behind more gaggles of cars work their way through. And I think that's what we're going to see throughout this race. Gaggles form, and you might see 2 or 3 hypercars try and overtake 2 or 3 GT3s, and it gets a little bit messy because they're all tripping over each other. And then we might start to see that in the next 20 minutes or so, but for the time being, it's just a bit of a free-for-all, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird how it's working out, really. You knew it. The thing is, as well, you know, Matt's read them the riot act and said, boys, knock it off. It's going to be tight, right? You know, let's be real about it. And I don't know. Well, I think this is probably why I don't win races very often, because I look more at completing a race than I do trying to win it. I think my own goal is, if I'm going into an hour race, it's basically wanting to finish that race. If I win, bargain, but I'm not going to do anything stupid. You know, that's Mike Bell off the side of the circuit again. You know, he's got to settle down, because he's making far too many mistakes. And, well, clearly somebody else who has made a mistake as well is Matt Overton. So we're going to have a look back and see what Matt did. Oh, him and Ross Smith. Oh.
Whoa.
Where, yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there. Let's be real about it. On that one, just half actor doing half actor things. But yeah, for me, finish the race. Right? If you win, great. If you don't, then oh well, go again and see what happens. At least you've completed the race. We've got 3 hypercars out already of a short field of 12. And I don't think that's going to be the end of it. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's all well and good trying to finish the race, as long as you don't seemingly become a cast member of Doctor Who, as Matthew Overton did there. I do not know what was going on, but clearly having a good time. It was over that bump that I was saying that they get a little bit of airtime. Wasn't expecting that much airtime, but yeah. A couple of more moves then through the final couple of corners. Beninka getting lapped for the first time by these guys, as we're looking at some of the leaders in the hypercars. Not quite the leaders. Oh, there's another bit of a moment. Mike Bell looks like he's having the worst time in that car. Troy Uyan's now on the back of him, but Mike Bell looks like he's just set up the car awfully. We touched on it at the top of the broadcast. Setting up the car is key, and that may be where he's coming undone at the moment.
He might have the most stable setup in the world, but he is clearly overdriving that car. Like, it's not made to go around a corner at 200 kph. You know, you've got to settle down in it. You've got to brake it. You've got to slow it down. You've got to hit your braking points. It clearly is quick, but there's no point being quick if you're going to be ridiculously stupid. It's like, you know, you could be the quickest guy in the world, but if you can't drive it properly, it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? If you're making far too many mistakes for your own good, and his mistakes have cost him nearly 35 seconds. And that first one, where it was just coming into the roller coaster here, that was just unnecessarily ridiculous. I've got to be honest, a 0 IQ driving moment on that one for Mike Bell, because I think there's a lot that, you know, needs to be learned from this, and one of them is, well, first off, don't stick multi-class on VIR, and secondly, some of the drivers got to look at themselves and think, I should have done better.
But it's difficult to really read this in hindsight, isn't it, for some of these guys, because as we are looking at, these are live pictures, I believe, as they're on down in towards the roller coaster. It is difficult for the drivers to kind of pick themselves up, especially after a mistake, if they're a long way down on the positions that they were aiming for, especially if, you know, that aim of getting to the end may seem a little bit futile with the position that they're in. They just want to make progress. They've got to be careful, my word, this is not a good idea. Nearly 3 wide, is it 3 wide? Very, very nearly down into turn 1. In the battle in the GT3s, this is a battle on track between Max Sunderlap and Johnny Gutierrez. Inside line for Johnny Gutierrez. Down at turn 1, not going to work out for the cyan blue car. Oh my word, that looked like it was nearly a disaster. 3 cars wiped out on the main straight. Yeah,
JT Tammy's sitting in behind him as well. Can you imagine now if these guys had gone 3 wide and then all of a sudden a hypercar would come into the mix as well. Where would you put them all? You know what I mean?
That's risky, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be patient. The GT3 is fine, you know, go for it. But if the hypercar comes into the mix, where are you going to put them? And that's the thing. Johnny Gutierrez clearly wants to get on with this. He's slowing. He's getting, as far as he's concerned, in his eyes, Max Unverlap slowing him up. So he wants to get through. He's now got a hypercar coming up behind him as well. You can just see it coming over the brow of the hill there. So for Gutierrez, he wants to do two things: A, get round the oak tree, and B, get that hypercar past him as quick as possible so he can carry on with Max Unverlap.
Yeah, and it's just so tricky, especially when you've got those hypercars coming through, just to try and stick with the drivers in front, especially if they're trying to overtake in some dangerous spots, which is not what's going on here. They've gone nicely through, but as they make their way down into the roller coaster, still need side by side. You know, there is such a long straight, isn't it, down the back straight here at VIR. When you think of realistically turn 1 through to really South Bend and Oak Tree, it is half of the circuit. The other half is just that straight and this little bit at the end of the lap down at roller coaster to finish that. So it's such a long straight, so many opportunities to then overtake some of these GT3s, because you need it, really. We've talked about how it's difficult through Sector 1 to overtake these cars, and coming out of the pit lane it won't be fun either, but that's one of the hypercars coming out. And interesting to see that they are making these stops at the moment. And we haven't seen Alec King, Brian Hall, the likes of those guys come in yet, when we said that it would probably be a 2-stop for them. Yeah,
I expect him to be in within the next five minutes, as Alec King has just made another mistake off the side of the circuit. You know, you've got to look at it and sit back and really think about what you're doing. I've got a funny feeling King is either really struggling on fuel, he's just managed to get the car back, and he's into the pit lane now. Where is that going to leave Brian Hall, and is he going to go into the pit lane at the same time? But you know, for me, this is a race that you are just necessarily going to gain positions purely because you finished the race. That's as far as I can see it on this one that's happening at the moment.
And it's the reason that we see some of the drivers doing well in the championship as well. Some drivers that just turn it week in, week out, finish the races and pick up the points. I mean, Gilles Lalonde was a good example of that. Ironically, I don't believe he's here this evening, as I mentioned him, but the point is that he's generally been very consistent with his attendance, he's been consistent with his finishes, made sure just to get the car home and pick up the points accordingly, and it's why he's doing so well in the championship. And it's really a way that you can see a lot of these drivers finding their way to not just victory lane, but the championship picture as well, working your way through the season. An example of it I could think of is Will Power. 2022 IndyCar Series. I think he won one of the 17 races and won the title because he finished, I think, 12 times in the top 4 or something. It's a crazy stat, but just doing that can win you titles, and this is a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is the thing. You don't have to win every race to win a championship. You know, I've seen it in another series where the guy had only won one race. You know, won one race, but he went and took the championship win because he was just consistent. He was on the track and he was being consistent, and that's the thing. You've got to be learning to be consistent, and if you're not, well, then drama's going to happen there as well. I'm not sure why some of the cars have got a lower FOV than some of the others here. As Scar Pope does make it round Ross Smith. I said just that makes it round Ross Smith. It did just make it round Ross Smith. I think we've got Ben Kesby back out on track and Matt Overton's back out, albeit they are laps down here, so we'll have to see how they can get on. There's a little battle in the AMS in the GT3s developing. Ryan Paulbert Reyes and Alexander McQuarrie, they're not very far apart at all here, so we'll keep an eye on this one for a minute just to see how they get on, and I'll keep an eye to see if anybody else takes an adventure off the side of the circuit. I literally did think Matt Overton was going for an audition in Stranger Things then. He was off to the upside down.
Yeah, just aloft in the air, wasn't he?
Yeah, he just went off, didn't he? Yeah, through the portal went Matt Overton.
I had Kate Bush quietly. I didn't know what it was at the time, but that makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think it's going to help him too much in just about beating Ross Smith. Looking at it at the moment, Ross Smith is in P28 overall, and Matt Overton a couple of laps down on him, so not looking good for Matt. But you never know, something could happen to Ross. Ross will be hoping that he goes scot-free to the end, but this is a race where you've really got to be on your toes all the way to the end. We are actually also nearly halfway through. It's flown by, quite frankly, this race with all the action that we've had so far. But the battle we are looking at, it's got McQuarrie, it's got Reyes, but it's also just in behind got Eugene Mazur, who is trying to just stay where he is, maybe pick his way through these two and get after Michael Lock, because Michael Lock is 10 seconds up the road, and that's really where his race is going to be at the moment.
Yeah, I do wonder whether or not Eugene Mazur's got the pace, because him and Eric Jacobs have been where they are for literally the whole first half an hour of this race. So I do wonder whether or not they've even got the pace to be able to get past these guys. I've got to be honest, McQuarrie and Paul Reyes look quick, so maybe they haven't got the pace they're down to be able to get through, and that's kind of clearly showing, because you can see these guys are making moves away from them while Eugene Mazur is trying to stay with them, and looks like he's grasping at straws to try and stay with them.
And it does seem that the pace is lacking a little bit here, which will be concerning for him in a sense that, you know, he's not necessarily where he'd want to be in the class. He's down in, what's that, P8, I believe, in the class, so not necessarily where he'd want to be. But he's comfortably ahead of Eric Jacobs. Paul Livingston's a long way back as well, so he's safe where he is. It's just a case now of trying to move forward if he can. As the lights are flashing with the hypercars continually, ducking and diving to make their way through this lap traffic. But it is interesting, isn't it, really, when you get this Pro-Am racing. You don't often have it when it's just a free-for-all in terms of the classes. When you have Pro-Ams, is that not the right line for you, Peter? My point was going to be is that you are racing with people and with drivers that you may have similar pace with, but they're not really in the same race as you. So it's a very weird scenario for you to be in. You're racing someone because you're very matched on pace, you're in the same machinery, but realistically, that's not your race for the championship.
No, but you've got to be smart, haven't you? You've got to think about what you're doing. As McQuarrie, something like and Gutierrez comes into the pits, Benica just carries on. I think with any form of racing like this, albeit an hour with a pit stop, you know you've got that pit stop. So program it into your head that you've got it, and you need to plan when you're going to take it. If you've had a rotten time at the beginning of the race, you know, you want to try and make up some time, take it a little bit longer. If you're stuck in traffic and you're just stuck there and you can't go anywhere, take it earlier to get it out the way, to see if you can get some clean air on the circuit. That's the important thing. Trying to find space. If you don't find space, you're not going to be able to come out in clean air, because you're just going to come out in a big old bunch of traffic.
And that is the worst thing in this kind of race, just to find yourself in traffic, just to find yourself in an area of the racetrack where there are cars all over the road. It's not an easy place to be, but you've got to adapt. You've got to make sure that you are on your toes all the time in a race like this, and that is what makes VWSC NARS series so interesting to watch and to drive in, because there are so many elements that you have to be aware of. GT3 is coming to the pit lane. We're just passing half distance, so that makes sense. They should be able to get to the end with the stop. Alec King still going around as well. A little bit of clean air for him, but he's just got the small matter of Johnny Gutierrez in front of him in that bright blue car. Difficult to miss, as Gutierrez almost being scared off of the road by Alec King, but King will get through nice and easily down in towards the roller coaster. But it's just been a bit of a cruise for Alec King the last 20 minutes, isn't it? Because he's just gained time on everybody else, and he hasn't really had to worry about the pure pace that he has.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and I do wonder what if Kirby was in a hypercar, and what if Mike Bell was still running where Mike Bell should have been, and hadn't made such a brash move that cost him dearly. You know, and that's the thing. I do wonder where that would have come from, and how and where that would have developed, and what sort of chapters we would have had in the race then. But at the moment, it's just Alec King kind of all on his own, chilling, driving along, making a mistake, going off the circuit at the beginning, coming back on, and still managing to lead the race, which is just unbelievable. We've lost Norm Graff. Norm Graff went into the pits, and then obviously, unfortunately, DNF. Ben Kesby's been off the side of the circuit and has got a little bit of problem at the same time. So a couple of people still, even with 28 minutes to go here, Dara struggling a little bit.
Yeah, maybe he was just keeping us on our toes, Alec King. Frankly, he was playing with us, trying to see if we would get worried about his pace, because he's just had such control over the last 20 minutes, and just getting through this corner would be important for him, and just getting through the rest of the race, not having to force these overtakes on the GT3s, and just allowing himself to have a bit of a breather, have a bit of a rest, and keep the pace relatively high, but also not frighteningly fast, as he's concerned about chucking it off the road in one of the many areas of this circuit where chucking it off the road is a genuine concern. He's lapped everybody up to P8, and that's because JT Tammy is currently in P9 overall. And his next car to lap, theoretically, in terms of the overall classification, would be Lanny Hall, who is not too far behind in the grand scheme of things, but he's just got so many cars in front of him to overtake in the near future, and they just keep coming. There's never-ending GT3s for these hypercars, because, I mean, 25 of them, they just keep coming. This isn't the longest track either.
The problem is once you see them on one lap, you're going to see them every single lap after. That's the thing. As Eric Jacobs in that Mercedes has just gone past, I believe that might have been actually JT Tammy. Is that JT Tammy in the back? It's not JT Tammy there. It's Ross Smith. Who is that in that Ferrari? I can actually see somebody down by Smith, isn't it? Is it David Anderson? Yes, David Anderson. Yeah. So, you know, for the likes of these guys, they're starting almost lapping their own as such. You know, there's obviously pit lane cycles going in, Miller's gone in, Stroll's gone in. So there's a lot still to play for. We've still got one more coming out, the hypercars, I believe. They probably can only go about another 6 to 7 minutes before they've got to look at pitting again, average around about 20, possibly 25, depending on how the fuel saving's gone. But yeah, this is definitely a will race. You know, will it to finish? Hopefully we finish and stay out of trouble trying to get finished. That's all I can say on this one.
Yeah, it's just awareness, isn't it? Realistically, racecraft comes into it as well, and it really does rise the cream in that regard to the top in this race, and it does show over the course of the season. I know we touched on it before, but over the course of the season, the drivers that just can get to the end, that can keep their heads and keep their car on the asphalt, will find themselves further up the championship order come the end of the season than their pace might otherwise suggest. So lots of chances here for drivers, even if they're a little bit further down the order, because with 25 minutes left, you can guarantee that there'll be drivers all over the road, off the road, into a barrier. You've just got to make sure that that isn't you, and you can work your way through, calmly do the strategy, particularly if you're Alec King and you just have 27 seconds, 28 seconds of an advantage, and ever increasing. Just keep it nice and calm, keep it level-headed, and you will find yourself rising to the top of the tree by the end of the race, or at least overtaking a couple of cars you just haven't had awareness that you've had over the course of the day. Couple of stories I wanted to touch upon, Scar Pope being one of them. He's obviously leading the Hypercar AM category at the moment, but he's P2 overall, and he's Alec King's closest competitor at this stage of the race. So really, really a good performance from Scar Pope, and just showing that there can be quite a nice crossover between the pros and the AMs.
Yeah, Scar's been no slouch. Do you know what I mean? Let's be realistic about it. He's not a slouch in the race car, is he? And at the end of the day, for him, he's got it all to play for. Jerry Chen is behind him, so well, at the moment, Jerry's. Oh no, is that Don Hunter in a barrier? How did he end up there? Oh, bro. Oh, dude, come on.
Yeah. I don't think much he's going to that.
No, you can't. He was. I feel like. You can't blame the GT3. He was already rotating the car into the corner about now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because the speed that the hypercar was coming at made it very difficult for the GT3 to really judge where he was going to be. But at the same time, that's a brave move to go up the inside there, especially when you know that that's the first part of the S's section where you're going to get stuck behind the car in front anyway. You might as well bide your time and wait twiddle your thumbs and get them down here on the exit from Oak Tree. But I mean, that is just gonna. I mean, it's destroyed his race, isn't it? Frankly, there's real hope for Don Hunter now. That car is firmly crashed, and I can't see him coming back out on the track anytime soon, if at all. So, I mean, gutting for Hunter, but it's just one of those things. You've got to be aware, you've got to be careful. And clearly, he was a little bit too keen for his own good in that scenario.
Yeah, you've got to be patient. It's not a tough thing to be, is it? You know, you've got to be patient. That one little bit of impatience for him has put him in, well, he's actually DNF'd. So there he goes, there's a big old puff of smoke. And I believe that may have been Paul Ibbotson. Was there a contact with Paul? That's going to be the question. Oh no, he just lost it clearly on his own, just too quick, wasn't it?
You can see when you get onto the grass, it just drags you out wide again. You don't obviously have that downforce that you would otherwise have on the asphalt. There's nowhere near as much grip on grass as there is on the racing surface. So Paul obviously having a horrible time on the outside and slipping down the order. But his green machine will continue on, I have no doubt. Let's see if he can climb up the order any further. The problem for him is that he's behind Sean Kelly and there's only two GT3 Pro drivers behind him at the moment, and they are David Anderson and Matt Overton, who, as we all know, Matt Overton having one of the most horrific races I think I've ever seen. Currently 5 laps down on the lead and a full lap down on anybody. So he's having a bit of a hard time. And there's someone else off in the grass behind. There's dust everywhere, isn't there? You can just see it from a mile away, the dust emanating from the circuit.
Yeah, I think that may have been Sanfrey. Yeah, it was. Sanfrey's having a bit of a nightmare as well. But Don Hunter, Ben Kesby, Norm Graff, Adrian Rice, Vinicius Goncalves, all out. That makes it 5 people. And we should have 32 still running, I believe. Actually, it might be 31 still running with Matt Overton. Everybody else, believe it or not, is quite spread out. There's no real scenarios where people are close together within classes. And if you look on the intervals on the left-hand side there, that's the complete overthrow, the complete table of everybody listed. And they're not very close at this moment in time. So, yeah, it's very interesting, but I'm surprised they're this spread out, I think. Yeah, I'm surprised they're this spread out, Dara. I think Paul Ibbotson and Sean Kelly are probably the closest battle on the race circuit.
Ibbotson clearly has a little bit more pace because he's gained time hand over fist this last lap. Maybe trying to make up for the fact that he had that issue on the last lap. He's over a second and a half up on this tour of the circuit alone. Oh, that won't help him though. Dragging himself out wide onto the grass once again. He's just trying to be the grass. Green car, green grass. He's not going to help him out too much, but it will help him to get through here on the outside of the turn. Can he make it? Oh, a little bit of rubbing his racing.
Why
It seems a lot of it. A lot of it. But Sean Kelly, I mean, can you say that Sean Kelly didn't leave enough room there?
I'm never one to judge, and I try and be nice, but this is... I don't know what to judge, because he was clearly alongside. You have not left him room. He ain't Harry Potter. He can't just evaporate. He can't shove himself with dust in a chimney. It ain't gonna work on a race circuit, especially when you're on a straight. I don't know. Quoting Zach Sweeney, proper zero IQ moment. I don't get it.
That was said about Zach Sweeney, not for the actual.
Well, yeah, that as well. But don't tell him I told him that. But you know that as well.
But yeah, it's really just weird to see sometimes that you see inside line for Alec King there on Paul Ibbotson, but Paul Ibbotson is clearly there. There's no doubt that he's there. It's really front door contact nearly, and these front wheels are door. There's no question that he's alongside, and then just to see it, the door close off with the track going to the right anyway, you'd think you'd turn it a little bit earlier to try and claim the inside line, but Ibbotson coming under, coming bit of a cropper to that scenario, but this is what it was.
There's no even rotation.
It doesn't even look like there's half a car clip on the outside.
No, there's no even rotation to get away from him. It's just straight.
I mean, Paul Smith will say that he was just closing the door there.
Well, Sean Kelly. Well, no, you can't. You cannot say that. That guy was well alongside you before you even got anywhere. No, and there was no evasion.
Oh no!
You know, he didn't even look like he was pulling away. It didn't look like he was moving apart. It was, yeah, I don't know. I'll be worried about the stewards' penalty list after this because some of these, yeah, it's not tidy racing. It's not tidy racing, and I don't know if that's the drivers getting close to Halloween and seeing too many full moons, or is it the track that the series has decided to put them on? And I can't work out where that line of difference is at the moment because we said the track isn't going to lend itself to multi-class, and it clearly isn't delivering, but the drivers are not helping the scenario. So I don't know. As I say, I don't know if it's because it's Halloween, or I don't know if it's because of the race circuit that we're on. I'm struggling here with comprehension of certain things that we're witnessing.
Won't be hot and bothered. It is middle of the summer.
Yeah, but we're in the UK. What are you talking about? We're in the UK. It's rained all day.
Well, it's still quite warm where I am. I think it's something like 27 and very humid. So, or it was today. So, and what's that in American speak? 27 Celsius to Fahrenheit.
54, 80.
80.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it feels worse than that, obviously, with the humidity. You know, us and our love of talking about humidity, but it's possible. You never know. There are some very hot spots in the US at the moment where these guys will be based. So that's King to the inside. That's a smart move from Alec King. Just getting it to the inside, but getting it stopped at a point where he's not going to hit the car in front. I say that nearly hits the car in front, coming towards the S's, but you can just see the track opens up a little bit here, make the move to the inside. Drops are good, and you can fly away up front, chase after your next target, and not have to worry about these guys for another little while. Yeah,
exactly. But then, if you're Alec King, you're going to be picking up on them very well. You can go on the grass. You're going to be picking up on them very, very shortly. Look, there's Stephen. I believe that's Stephen Miller in front of us here. Yeah, it's difficult because we're not in a car, right? We're not the ones running the race circuit with this amount of GT3s on there, and there was a lot, but I still believe there could be a show of patience from the hypercars that are not being shown. And I've always been an advocate of hypercars, and I will sit back and say, oh, Kirby in that Porsche, just drift it out wide, let him take the inside there. I've always been an advocate with the hypercars whenever I listen to GT3s in certain official races and certain other sims, you know, and I sit there and say it works both ways. You've got to facilitate the bars. I shouldn't have to, it's his job to get through. Yeah, but if you're going to, you know, make it as difficult as possible and then moan when an incident happens, you've only got yourself to blame, right? And there's probably a few scenarios where people may need to look at themselves.
Daytona's a bad track, isn't it, for quite a lot of that, where some of the drivers will just be, or the slower classes just will not be in any way, shape or form happy to be played around by the faster classes, just because they've got the oval part of the circuit, where, you know, they're thinking, oh, get past me there, but clearly, for example, the hypercars don't want to wait for the LMP3s, the GT3s to go through there. But yeah, I guess circuits like this where you just don't have an option, do you? Especially in the first part of the lap. You've got to be going for it somewhere, but you've just got to be calm and concise in doing so. That's what Alec King has done to perfection. That's why he leads this race. You'll notice as well on the tower, Uyan is in P2. He's still in the pit lane. And of course, Alec King is coming up towards the pit lane, just to show you how big his gap is at the moment.
Yeah, Hypercar Pro, isn't he, Troy Uyan? Out on the race circuit now, done his last pits. He should be good to the end. He's got a 77-second gap, which in conjunction is about a 1:17 behind Alec King. And Alec Well, he's into the pits. He'll have time for days to go in, get changed, sit down, get a cup of tea, say hello to his mum, give her a kiss, write her a letter, and get back out on the racetrack again. You know what I mean? Let's be real about it. He's got time for days in there at this moment in time. But you know, it's been that style of race, and I think that if you got to the end, well done. You know, be proud of yourself, because not everybody has. And as you said, patience is the key, but if you don't show it, you end up in the pit lane.
You do, but not for the reasons that we're seeing Alec King in the pit lane, because he's just there for a scheduled pit stop to get him to the end of the race. Shouldn't be too much fuel having to go in the car. But I mean, you did mention, didn't you? We'll have a quick look at the replay. And what happened here then? This is, oh no, this is Mike Bell bouncing his way over, rear end, bye-bye, into the grass, into the wall. Yeah, that's not going to be kind.
Definitely not.
But, I was just going to mention as well, though, with Alec King in the pit lane, he could order a takeaway, couldn't he, really? While he was in the box. And I'd order an Indian about the time, obviously your first pick, James, but...
Oh, do you know what? It'd be between Chinese and a kebab.
Yeah.
Doner meat and chips with mayonnaise is my go-to meal. Partly because it's got everything, you know. I've got, you know, my potatoes, I've got my meat, mayo, generally with coleslaw, a few onions, bit of lettuce. Just saying.
Yeah, 5 a day as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cover little basis. Until I wake up in the morning and then look down and realise that my belly's grown 2 inches, and I can't imagine why it would do that.
Hey, well that's it. Alec could probably, you know, call up, get it delivered, and eat before he left the pit lane to still stay out in the lead of the race, because has been his dominant so far. We'll probably have to ask what he will order based off that conversation when we get to interview him in a bit. But there's Sean Kelly. Now he's maybe getting a little bit of a taste of what happened earlier between himself and John Ibbotson, but he's gone off very, very wide down. I think that's the roller coaster. Yeah, it is. I wonder what's happened there, because that must have been contact to find yourself on the outside there, surely.
Paul Ibbotson.
Oh no.
No, he did it on his own.
He's lost it.
He literally did it on his own. But the question is, what happened to Ibbotson after this? He's gone off as well.
With the wideness of the track there on the outside, it's almost like you go into some kind of, you know, like open map game of where can you go, where can you discover, because there is so much runoff there with the grass. I don't know how far the sim actually lets you go, but you can kind of get a sense of it there. You just couldn't see any barrier where we saw his rival in the form of Sean Kelly. Mind you, Ibbotson and Sean Kelly, they aren't even in the same class, are they? So all of the fighting that's gone on won't even make a difference in terms of the points compared to each other, because they're not even in the same championship. But hey-ho, that might be the end of Ibbotson versus Kelly for the end of this race, but it certainly won't be the end of some of the battles, including James Walker against Ross Smith, because Ross Smith hoping to cling on to that top 10 finish.
Yeah, well done to Ross. He wasn't even expected to be there. Let's be real, he hadn't practiced. He, you know, was worried about the circuit, and he's doing a great job. And this is him showing how consistent you can be. You've just got to be sensible. That's it.
We're seeing some more sensible driving, generally from the hypercars in the last half an hour or so, where they've kind of become accustomed to where the GT3s are going to be, how they act really in the corners, and the pace. Oh, Ross having an awful exit through turn 1. Here comes James Walker around the outside at turn 3 will be his. Ross is just going to hold the inside line and keep ahead for now. It doesn't look comfortable. None of these drivers have looked comfortable in their cars this evening. I don't know what it is, but there's something in the pants, isn't there? Because there is just there's nothing in the rear end that is giving me confidence for these cars.
No, I think this is the problem. What do you set your setup as? You can't go aggressive on pace because you can't get through some of these corners. So you're going to need a wing. If you go too much wing, you're going to be slow down the straight. you've got to try and balance. It's probably the only time you can sit here and say you need a balanced setup. It's got to be balanced. It's got to give you grip in the corners, and it's got to give you speed on the straight. And you've just got to find it. And if certain drivers have gone loose on the back end, and you know, to try and compensate for the speed, that's where your problems are coming from. But you can't afford to do that. You need that grip in the corners. These corners aren't, you know, how can I put it? They're not exactly fast flowing all the time. There are some couple of tight corners in here. So, you know, it's got to be a balanced setup. And if you're not balanced, you're going to be sliding around like Bambi on ice.
Yeah, high traction zones here, you think turn 1, particularly then through turn 5 out towards the S's, exit of Oak Tree, exit of the roller coaster maybe, where the rear end's really going to step out, especially with the camber at that corner. And you've just got to make sure your car is set up nicely for you, otherwise you're just going to be in a world of pain. And all of that time you might be gaining down the straight, because you're just going to be losing by sliding everywhere, overheating the tyres, and making the problem exponentially worse. But isn't the battle for P2 in the GT3 Pros? William Schilting, like I said earlier, really has improved no end so far this season, ahead of Dan Kirby at the moment. But Dan Kirby looking to find his way through a couple of mistakes from the 090, which is uncharacteristic, of course, from him, hoping to recover to P2 at least, because Beninka, you'd say a little bit too far up the road, wouldn't you?
Oh, he's, what is he, 5.5 seconds up the road? I'm not saying it's not possible, I'm saying it's unlikely. Benika's fairly consistent, right? Let's be real about it. He is a consistent individual in the car, and that's why he's leading the championship. It's not because he's not. So yeah, as much as I love Dan Kirby and how fast he actually is, I wouldn't put it to him that he's getting up to Benika. I'm trying to be diplomatic, Darren, which doesn't really suit me too much.
Hey, you've still got time, don't you worry.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for letting me know.
And it's not the drivers can fight us as well, is it? So, you know, we're nice and safe up here.
Yeah, well, we're quite far away as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. Most of these are in the US.
We got an ocean in the way.
Yeah, exactly, and a good few thousand miles. But look, I think overall the racing that we have been watching has been good. Yes, has it been littered with mistakes? Absolutely. Is it a classic? No. Will they ever come to VIR again? I absolutely hope not. I've got to be honest, if anyone mentions VIR in a multi-class to me, Dara, I think I'm going to go off my nut.
You never know. You know, we could get a 60 car grid, and that might be even more
chaotic.
Whatever this was. Yeah, chaotic, crazy, mad, hellish, whatever you want to call it. Oh, Dan Kirby, that was not a nice way to make his way through the South Bend, because he was all over the road, and with the track dropping away there as well, you really lose downforce, because the car is just, you know, dropping to the track again, and you lose a lot of that G-force that you have in the car through the corner, just in the fact that the car becomes ever so slightly more weightless. That doesn't help you with the rotation, does it? No,
that's the thing, when the car's sort of almost not even on the track at certain points, if you are lifting and the car is jumping up in the air, you've got nothing to hold it. So you've got to make sure that if you are going up in the air, let it land and give it a second. You know, don't try and do anything crazy within the first second of probably of you landing, because you might not go and end up where you want to go. You know, I've seen cars go up in the air, they've landed, and the driver's got his steering wheel turned to the right. So the first thing the car wants to do is go right, because it literally is led that way. You've just got to hold it straight, let it land, give it a second to settle itself, and then start applying the throttle. Because otherwise, as you say, you apply it too early and you're driving off the front, and you're going to go one way or the other, left or right. You're driving it off the rears ain't going to have time to settle properly, and you're liable to spin it up and go round in a circle.
And we see it time and time again. I mean, not just in this series, or even at this track, or even in these cars. You see it time and time again where, you know, drivers can be a little bit too quick on their reactions. You know, trying to correct a little bit of oversteer, and the car's picking that up quite nicely. And you're going to find yourself just holding, you know, You want to turn a little bit left as the car drifts out to the right. You turn left too far and you're going to find yourself spinning around in the rear end, just not wanting to stick anywhere. Oh my word, Eric Jacobs, that got close. Eric Jacobs clearly maybe not aware of where the hypercar was, but nevertheless, Eric Jacobs is now behind, and he's going to battle with Eugene Mazur in the final 3 minutes of this race over P7, a place where we were talking about earlier. Mazur may not get up to, but clearly Eric Jacobs has fallen into his grasp.
Yeah, Eugene Mazur has done a great job, isn't he? You get your head down, you get on with it, and you pick up whatever you can, right? And he's done that. 1:45.921 last time out, or his best time, we should say 1:46.067 for Jacobs. So both men in the 47s going into this last lap. 47.0 for Mazur, 47.2 for Jacobs. So he's clearly got pace. He's just now got to work out how he's going to get close enough to make a overtake, right? And the reason I want to pick up on that is, although you will see draft, that is somebody is that Matt Overton? No, yeah, it is Matt Overton.
Yeah.
You're asking cars that are built, yes, they're aerodynamic, but they're not massively aerodynamic, right? They're bodywork dynamic. That's probably about it. Mechanically, you can't get the draft that you need to go down that backstretch into the roller coaster. And as you saw there, clearly Eugene Mazur hasn't got the speed to get close enough to see if he can make that draft last. I'd love to see how close Mazur can get and whether or not that draft's actually going to make a difference, because I've got a funny feeling unless he's well within 2 tenths, maybe even a tenth and a little bit, I can't see him getting past off the draft without it.
No, and I also think that this could be their last lap, depending on how fast Alec King goes through, because Alec King was just in the background there. Yeah, you can see him. This is now the last lap of the race. He will find the checkered flag next time around, the white flag officially out, and everybody that he now overtakes or laps will now be finishing on this current lap. So it really is crunch time if you're the guys battling up in front, because the window is closing. If Alec King was another 5-10 seconds back, they would have got an extra lap, but it's not looking like that for the time being. 50 seconds on the clock in an hour that has gone quite quickly. Well, the first half an hour went like an absolute flash. Second half an hour has been a little bit slower, mainly because the car hasn't necessarily been too close on track, but we've not been short on action regardless. But Alec King, all he needs to do is get through this traffic, get to the line, and then he can have a lovely takeaway that he's ordered. Oh my word.
Oh my dearie me. You're not stopping, you're not stopping. Baby kids. Meow. Oh dearie me. I did not think that Porsche was going to stop off that car, so now I've got to be honest.
No, neither did I. To be fair, the thing about Alec King is that he's got a 37 second gap, so he could probably have a big crash here and still limp home for the victory, because he's just been so dominant. He had that mistake, didn't he, obviously at turn 1, where he lost the lead. It was uncharacteristic. We were surprised, didn't know really what was going on, because it's just not like Alec King to make a mistake like that, particularly down at turn 1. But he was back in the lead after another couple of laps, and he just has not looked back since. He has been dominant once again here in the VWS, the NRAS series, and Alec King once again in this 2024 season will be your winner, this time at the Virginia International Raceway. It's been an interesting race to say the least, but Alec King will come out on top by a very comfortable margin. Scar Pope as well, a similarly comfortable margin for him. He's been in P1 all race long in the hypercar and he should come through for the win as he comes through the final corner, sliding his way through. Don't lose the car now, just get it to the line, Scar, and you will find yourself in the winner's circle, weaving his way up to the line. But I have to say, Alec King and Scar Pope, they have been two of the most dominant winners we've seen all season, James.
Yeah, absolutely. They've scored. They've literally taken their classes to school. Benica's not far off it either. 4.4 seconds for him. And Alexander McQuarrie is another one that's done a great job and has really kind of led from the beginning. I didn't see him ever get overtaken by Ryan Paulbert Reyes. I'm pretty sure he would have finished though, mind you. And it's, yeah, I thought he would have. Did he get overtaken there, Darragh? Can you remember?
I think he did. I mean, he's behind Dan Kirby on the track now, so I'm really sure he's done with his race.
Yeah, I think he is.
there is Dan Kirby. No, I don't know. Regardless, I think he's won this. Oh, yeah, you can see him slowing down now. So McQuarrie definitely the winner in this one. Oh, that's the other pit lane. Oh, for half a moment there, I thought the GT team was just going into the end of the pit wall for a laugh, but they're just going through the pit lane for a laugh, taking out the cones as well. But I mean, that was quite something, wasn't it? We've had an hour's worth of some interesting racing, some clean racing, and then some not so clean racing, along with our fair share of incidents all over the circuit. Looking at a corner went incident-free, so it's been a busy one, but really not that busy for Alec King because he was out in front, didn't look back, and has won this race comfortably. Scar Pope P2, winning his AM class, but P2 overall, very, very, very good performance from the 013. Troy Yuan rounds up the podium overall, but Mike Bell will be on the Hypercar Pro podium as he finished in 4th. Jeremy Chen second in class in P5 with Brian Hall 6th. Lanny Hall on the class podium in 7th, and Jason Whitehead, the only other real finisher, meaningful finisher in the Hypercars in P8. Eduardo Beninca wins the GT3 Pro ahead of William Schilting in P2 as we roll all the way on to Dan Kirby, Johnny Gutierrez, and JT Tammy. Dan Kirby, of course, P3 in class. Michael Locke, Eugene Mazur, and Eric Jacobs, the top 16. Alexander McQuarrie leads home the podium for the GT3 AMS. Just behind him, Ryan Pulver Reyes and Carl Struwell, rating to 19th overall. Alan Holden was 21st, just in behind Max Sunderlap, who finished 20th. James Walker was 22nd, ahead of Stephen Miller and Ross Smith, who did end up beating Matthew Overton. Cole McMillan, Escafil Sanfrey and Sean Kelly top 27 with David Anderson, Josh McGlinskey and James Boders in the top 30. And then our final runners in this race, I don't think many of them even finished. Paul Ibbotson 31st, Matt Overton 32nd, and then our definite non-finishers, Don Hunter, Ben Kesby, Norm Graff, Adrian Rice, and Vinicius Goncalves. None of them, in the end, seeing the checkered flag from our 37-strong field for the 1 hour race here at the Virginia International Raceway. But as you said, James, I think it's been an interesting one, but not really terribly interesting for Alec King. We'll hopefully be able to grab a word from him in just a minute. When you
Whenever
give me
you're
the
ready.
heads up, James, I'll drag him into.
There you go.
Oh, we'll drag him in
there.
there now. There we go, Alec King. Well, we'll start at the start for you, Alec. I mean, a fantastic win in the end, but what happened at turn 1?
Turn 1 just misjudged it and locked up like crazy. I thought I warmed up the brakes enough, but ended up not. I went to hit my braking marker right about where I was, and just had no brake power because the brakes were still cold. So I just locked up and went straight, and I didn't want to cause any incident, so just figured it'd be best to go straight, not try and hit anybody. I knew that we could still come back. The car had a lot of pace tonight. We worked a little bit on some setup, tweaked with the roll bars a little bit, and we're able to find a lot of speed out of this car, and I think it showed. But yeah, just made things a little bit exciting. That wasn't, the only thing. I went through on my going into my first pit stop and completely forgot to pit. So crossed the finish line and saw that I had 0.6 of a lap of fuel remaining, and went, oh crap. So that one lap in the middle there. Luckily, I had pulled a far enough gap. I pulled almost 25 seconds in the first stint that I was able to pit and still come out up front. But yeah, not the most relaxing win. It was not an easy one. Even though it may have looked like it, there was a lot of stress behind the scenes of, oh man, I think I might throw this away and I really don't want to. But all in all, it was a good race. It was a good fight. And really happy with the finish we were able to have tonight.
Yeah, looked very comfortable from up here with the gap you had, but clearly issues with that. How's the traffic though? Because that looked like it was quite a conundrum, particularly at the start of the race.
At the start, it was definitely tricky because, the GT3s really hadn't spread out a lot. So it was about a train of, 20 GT3s. But it actually wasn't too bad. It definitely had its moments. You just had to be patient. If you weren't patient, then it became a problem. But if you going through the S's, you really didn't want to make a move. And, going through Oak Tree and some of the other sections, just really had to be methodical of where you're going to make the move. And, you could get someone going into the S's, but if you knew that it was going to be close, I just played it safe and just backed off and just coasted up. But it actually helped too, sitting behind the GT3 cars was actually able to help with a little bit of fuel. So I was able to save about 2 laps of fuel in that second stint. So, but no, I mean, it definitely was crazy. I saw a lot of other people having some problems. But actually tonight, I learned from my mistake from Canada to not try to be too impatient through traffic. So just kind of laid back and managed, and worked out for me.
Yeah, and in the end, ever close to that title for you. So looking good for that. Last thing before we let you go, next time out, I said next week, it's not going to be next week, but next time out in I think it's 6 weeks time even, Indianapolis. Is that one you're looking forward to? A little bit wider than it is here.
Yeah, Indy's definitely fun. Not gonna lie, it's kind of like VIR with traffic. You have some tricky sections, like with the chicane. But I actually really enjoyed that track. Was actually able to win there last year with this car, and now I feel like this car is even better than it was last year. Definitely will be a little hard though. Kirby tonight ran the GT3 car. I want to say thank you to him for running a livery that I made for that car actually. But I know the next 2 rounds he'll be back in the hypercar class with us, and we'll be in the 963. So definitely will be a challenge. But I know I have a big enough lead right now in the championship that now it's just managed. Let's just try and finish the next 2 races without a problem, and try and wrap this thing up after Road Atlanta.
Yeah, and we wish you all the best. Before we let you go though, Alec, any shout outs you want to give on the stream?
Definitely my teammate, Jerry Chen. We got this car figured out, so we've been doing great. He didn't have as good of a race tonight, but I know he'll be back at the next 2 rounds. Josh McGlinskey, my roommate, he finally made his return tonight, and had to listen to him scream the whole time for struggling. But thank you to him and Shade Tree Motorsports. Also, my grandmother, she's watching this right now. It was her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Subi.
Oh, happy birthday.
But then, just everyone here at CMS, you guys, JPB Broadcasting, thank you guys for doing this. Storm Gang Simulation, Champion Sim Racing, and everyone who comes to watch these races and come be a part of them. So we've got a really cool league here on Thursday nights, and we're just glad we were able to all put on a show for everybody.
So were we. But thank you, Alec, very much for joining, and we wish you all the best in the final 2 rounds.
Thank you, guys.
Alec King there then, winner in Hypercar Pro, but that also means that we can try and talk to our Hypercar AM winner, and that was Scar Pope. Scar, P2 overall, P1 of course in class. What an evening for you, must be delighted.
Thanks guys, that was a blast. I love VR, that was absolutely awesome.
You love it a little bit more than James up here seemingly does, but talk us through that race, because it looked a little bit quiet for you. There weren't too many cars around you, but it must have been a little bit stressful, especially with the traffic around you.
I had my eye on Troy for most of the race, because I figured he was the fastest Porsche behind me, and the Porsches generally have a bit more over the Asada in the twisty stuff. So I needed to keep an eye on him, and we got really close for the last 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and just a lucky break with traffic that I got the gap and kept second.
I mean, even so, even if it was lucky, you showed some great pace all the way through the evening. This must give you some confidence going into Indianapolis and Road Atlanta to finish the season. Are those 2 tracks you're looking forward to?
I'd like to say it gives me confidence when you say Indianapolis afterwards. That Road Atlanta, definitely. Indy, we'll see how the car goes, and I'll try my best. But yeah, VIR is definitely my last great track on the schedule. The rest of them, we'll see how we go up against Jerry.
Hey, you've got the chances all the way through to the end of the season, and we wish you all the best. Before we let you go, though, Scott, any shout-outs you want to give on the stream?
Well, big shout-out to CMS and all the crew that put the mod together, everyone who's been testing and racing. It's been a good blast. Thanks to everyone, and you guys too for doing the broadcasts.
Well, thank you to you, Scar, for your performance this evening. It was a pleasure to watch, and hopefully we'll see more of it in the next couple of rounds. So thank you, and we'll probably speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Scar Pope there then. The Hypercar AM winner, which leads us beautifully on to the LMGT3 Pro winner. And once again, Eduardo Benenka, winner in the class. I mean, you've been so dominant the last few rounds, really. How was this one tonight? It didn't look as easy as previous races for you, but still a nice win.
Yeah, good night, guys. Good evening. I was expecting a bit of fight from Daniel, and I really got it in the first few laps. Probably had some tire issues to overheat, I believe. So he went lost in the control of the car or something else, and I opened a gap in the beginning and keep the gap until the end. So yeah, true that I was expecting him to win this race because the BOP that Aston received in the last races, but for some reason I was able to put a very nice, very precise lap in qualifying, and after that he couldn't overtake me during the race. So I think it's This is my details that define the thing, but I will have to see. Probably in the next race he can be able to beat me.
But I mean, as a GT3 in that race, how was the traffic? Lots of hypercars looking to come through. Were there any scary moments for you?
Not at all. The hypercars were really respectful, given the characteristics of the track. I think there was a nice race for everyone, few DNFs, and I think that was an uh, amazing event in every aspect.
Well, hopefully we'll speak to you in the next couple of rounds, Eduardo. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to on the stream?
Yeah, I want to thank you, William and Eugene. William did a great race today. He was able to fight with Daniel head to head. He was happy at the end of the race. Talked to him a little bit, and that's it. I gotta thank you guys for the broadcast too.
We thank you for being here tonight, Eduardo. Many congratulations. We'll probably speak to you on your pace in the next couple of rounds.
Sorry?
I said on your pace, we'll probably be speaking to you again after the next couple of rounds because you'll likely be winning again. But all the best, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I expect to be on shape for the next rounds too, and have a fun.
Thanks, Eduardo. Great to hear from Eduardo Beninca after yet another win for him. And that just leaves us with the one final class winner, the GT3 AM winner. It was Alexander McQuarrie. And Alexander, what a win for you in the end as well. I mean, it was pretty close. Really, realistically, one of the closest classes out of the four tonight. You must be delighted with that.
Oh, I am. I mean, it was tough. I mean, a couple of races ago, I got taken out. It was an accident for sure, but I've been 2-3 weeks off. I'm like, oh man, I've been practicing, so I made sure to get the lap time in, or track time in to go ahead and pull this out. So I have to thank Ryan, my teammates Ryan and Mac. I mean, this Ryan did my livery, and Mac did my he always does my setups, so he's walking me through setups. I'm actually fairly new to this, so have been doing it for very long.
But you clearly showed some fantastic pace. I mean, how was the traffic around you today? Because you were talking about the pace, getting the practice in. How easy was it to kind of convert that practice and the and the good rhythm that you built up into the race? Where I mean, there were hypercars all over you.
It's tough in the vet, right? So the vet, I don't know if you see it. I mean, this thing gets walked on the straightaways. I mean, it's unbelievable how many cars pull on this thing. So, in the turns, I reel everybody in, right? And then, but I'll get on, right behind somebody on the exit. I don't have the power, so they just take off on me. So it's actually pretty challenging to pass on this thing. And like, I had to qualify really good to stay in front, because if I start on the back of the pack in this car, maybe with my skill level, the passing is tough. The straightaway power, it's not there, non-existent.
Yeah, but you get that, don't you? When there's almost like there's a big gap between the hypercars and the GT3s in terms of classes that are missing. But I mean, credit to you again for doing such a good job in this race. Looking forward, only a couple of rounds left. Indianapolis, Road, Atlanta. Two tracks you're looking forward to or not?
You know what? Like I said, I'm pretty new to this, so the only track I've actually even driven a lot was Laguna, Laguna Seca, and I've done that in real life on a bike. But a lot of these tracks I'm hitting right now, I've never driven them before, so I'll get a couple days of practice on them and then go for it. I mean, I don't even know the track layouts honestly until I get in. Like, hey, next week's this track, let's do this. So.
Well, fair enough. We'll have to see how you do it in Indianapolis then, just off a blank slate. So, congratulations, Alexander. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Oh yeah, my girlfriend Lori, because she actually supports me doing this stuff. Yeah. So hey, had a dinner today. I'm like, hey, I got race today. She's like, okay, cool. I'm like, hey, all right, awesome. So. Oh, what the. Oh, yeah. For sure. Oh, for sure. Happy wife, happy life, right? The old saying, right? Yep. All right, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Alex. And
Thank
that
you.
means that if anybody's wondering, James's wife is definitely not listening to the broadcast.
No, she's asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, a great day from all of our winners, James. Good performances in there as well. There were a couple of tight glasses, but generally the winners were dominant, weren't they?
Yeah. I think everybody out in front literally just dominated the pack, didn't they? There wasn't really anything major going on. It was for the minor places. You know, Alec was over 70 seconds. Scar Pope was further up than that. You know, Benica had 6 or 7. McQuarrie had like 17, I think it was, by the end or something. So a lot of people did a great job. And I think that, you know, fair play to them. And we've got a long wait till the next one.
Yeah, 6 weeks before we get to Indianapolis, so a very long way. But it's going to be an interesting gap, particularly with championships on the line. But in 6 weeks' time, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway should hopefully drum up a bit of a better race than we saw tonight, and I have no doubt that it will. Champions could be crowned there when we roll over to Indiana, but Road Atlanta, our finale, might be the place to be as well. So you won't want to miss either of the two final races for the season here in the VWSC NARS. Pleasure to have had your company here this evening from the JPB broadcasting booth. From myself, Dareth Thacker, from James Parfitt alongside me. We wish you all a very lovely evening, and we hope to see you in 6 weeks' time when we return in Indianapolis.